We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. Today, of course, is the Friday FARcast. I'm Robert Phoenix. And if you've been wondering where I've been for the past week or so, I have been on vacation. Yes, I take one every now and then. Although, whenever I take it with my family, rarely is it ever a vacation. And I'm sure many of you can relate. And this was a very interesting trip for me on a lot of levels. Perhaps maybe one of the most interesting occurrences took place on Wednesday when I was in New York City, and we were on our way, we being my son and I, were on our way to the Museum of Natural History. So we just had a slice of pizza at just outside of Penn Station, dropped down. We took the C train. We took it uptown, and we took it to the Museum of Natural History. The only problem was that when I got off at the Museum of Natural History, my kid didn't. And he wound up staying on the subway train. Now, think about that. You're a parent, and you've just gotten disconnected from your kid, who is now hurtling towards the unknown in a New York subway train. It was a freaky moment. But thanks to the kindness of strangers, he was returned to the station within about 10 minutes upon his strange departure. So that was just one of many highlights from our time, or my time, back in the lovely area of this country known as the East Coast. And props to New York and the wonderful people there for being such cool hosts, even in their anonymous guises. So here we are, we're back today, and we are going to be talking about what's happening in St. Louis. And I have not been paying a ton of attention to it because when I'm away, I try to get away, which means I try to let go of my addiction to media and cut off my drip line from the news, both mainstream and alternative, for as long as I can, although since I'm a news and information junkie, I stay plugged in to some degree. But I try to get some space and time away from what's happening. And apparently something significant occurred on the 9th of August and is still occurring. And we're going to look at that. It is the shooting of Michael Brown, yet another event in these cycles of events that are catalyzing people and activating all kinds of interesting pieces of programming material in their psyches. And we're going to get into that with my buddy, Coach Khayr Love, in just a minute or so. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to try to peel back the layers in this thing and find out what's going on. New events have unfolded over the last 24 hours. The release of the officer that shot Michael Brown, and the information or details that they were looking for somebody who'd just been involved in a robbery. And there's just got to be there are bigger pieces here that we're gonna get fractal, and we're gonna try to get to the big picture around all of it. So that will be in just a minute or so. Monday, of course, we'll be back on the case with the 11th House radio, and looking forward to that. Lots of astrology to talk about forward. And we're going to get into that today from a kind of an event-based piece. All right. So without any further delay, it's been a long time since I've had him on here. Let's bring him on. My good friend, Coach K, Dr. Love, also known as Dr. Love. This is Khayr. Hey, what's going on, Khayr?
Ain't nothing to it, big brother. How you feeling today?
You know, I'm here, man. I'm rallying. I got a good night's sleep. You know, I don't know about you, but I have been talking with a lot of people lately who cannot sleep. They're having a very difficult time getting 4, 5, 6 hours quality. If they can get that, I think that's a real victory. And I've been going through these cycles where, you know, I'm not ready to go down until, 3 in the morning sometimes, and I'm up by 6 or 7. So, and I know Tesla got a lot of mileage out of those hours, but I'm not sure everybody's a Tesla right now. So I got some sleep last night. I'm here. I'm primed. I'm ready to go. How are you doing?
Blessed by the best. Too sexy to be stressed, and I'm very appreciative of you doing this call. Like, I'm excited and I'm laid back at the same time because,
cool.
I'm an observer. As a historian, this kind of falls in my lane. I know a lot of people know me just from doing, psychic work or astrology work or spiritual work, but I'm a historian at heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't we do this? Let's kind of set the stage for what happened here. It was on August 9th around 1 p.m., I believe East St. Louis area, Ferguson, where this young man, Michael Brown, teenager, was shot and killed. And we've gone almost, today is the 15th. So we've gone roughly 7 days, almost 7 days, since the name of the officer has been released. That has been released today. We'll get into that. And in the past week, it has gone from a spark to a forest fire in East St. Louis. And you have some insights, personal insights with these folks, and some kind of on-the-ground perception about what's been taking place here. So what I'm going to do, Khayr, is I'm just going to hand you the medicine stick. I'm going to let you talk, and I want so you start at the top and you break it down, and then we'll go from there.
Whew. Okay, appreciate it. So the first thing I want to start at is as above, so below. Like, I want to start with the influence first, because it's going to end back up there with this full moon, the super moon that came in on the weekend.
Yep.
And regular research, not super deep research, but you can just go to Google and type in full moon effects. Just type in full moon effects, and you can type in full moon effects on crime, just full moon effects on people. And there's been tons of research. You don't have to go to the second or third page of Google, and you'll see that the full moon influences crime, violence, murders, suicides, psychotic episodes, and anyone participating in light or dark magic. There's going to be an increase in rituals, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's going to be more. It's going to be more sex. People want to have more sex. Liquor sales are going to go up. People are going to be on the edge if you're not a meditator. So, like, if you are normally a cool, calm meditator, it's going to affect you. If you're a person who's, like, agitated normally, then it's going to affect you differently. So this one so happens to be There, 3 supermoons this year. This is the one that was the closest, the biggest, and I know you have a very intelligent audience. I got some of my people listening too, but the moon controls the food that you eat. All the food that we eat is determined by the cycles of the moon. All farmers are planting based on moon frequencies, the tides of the ocean, women's cycles, people's regular emotions. So everything is turned up, as we say, turn up. So the moon has really got everything turned up on a high frequency, and that's the foreground first. Next you have, and the day before, the day of, and the day after are the most intense moments of the full moon. And that's, to me, is like the hugest thing that these so-called leaders are not speaking about publicly, but they're being opportunists when it comes to saying, okay, let's include people in our ritual, because a ritual just needs emotion. A ritual needs emotion. Everybody can just write that down. Like if you're not feeling it, let's say you want to do a ritual to make an extra $10, and you don't have the emotion to go behind it, you won't win the $10. But if you feel like you're gonna win $1 million, then the $10 will probably come in like 20s or 100s or something like that. You might not get $1 million, but you're gonna get more than 10. You got to have the emotion to back it. And if you put the emotion behind my ritual, even if you don't know what you're doing, this has been going on since Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, James Brown. When you go to a concert and you lend someone your emotional energy, you are involved in a ritual, but it's in a good way. Hey, I've been to a good concert. I know you've been to tons where you were involved and was like, you just get home and you just be like, man, that felt good. I got it out. I got to scream. I got to do all. And screaming is a part of some rituals. Well, now the sinister, which I call the sinister. And I want to say this as a former black nationalist and former, quote unquote, member of the black consciousness community, former that I seen all this, oh man, I can't, every time something bad happens to a black person and it's not black on black crime, and it's the police or something like that, I'm angry, it's just prone to be just angry at white people. Now, not all white people, but you just got this funk around like a bad fart saying, oh, black people are mad at white people. Oh, man. Now, there are a certain group, but the thing is, I have changed it to the sinister. There's an evil energy out here that's got black, white, Asian. Every person has a representative in the sinister. Let's call it the Sinister League, and then let's call it the Justice League. So Robert Phoenix and Coach Khayr and people at Cosmo Physics and the crew I run with on my inner circle, we're with the Justice League. Now then the sinister, and we have different races. We have different races, and we don't play the race card. But we recognize when the race card is being played. And the sinister does too. And the sinister says, yo, I'm doing rituals, but the sinister is also a master astrologer. Well, he's got a team of master astrologers because he's an opportunist. So I want to give a big shout out. In setting the stage, I have to say this too. There are some master teachers out here. Mitchell Gibson, this was like 2 days before the full moon and a day before the shooting, came on Facebook and said, all of my students, this is an excellent time to work your good Kinwa Fu magic. Kinwa Fu is relationships, prosperity, and health. So that means the 3 aspects that people want to do doing magic in prosperity, health, and relationships, which most people on planet Earth won't help in, no matter what color they are. He said, hey, focus on doing some good light work. This was on the 8th. You can go in his timeline and see it. And I was like, that's odd. You're to me, in my eyes and his accolades, you're like the number one astrologer, maybe in the world right now. And you never come on Facebook and talk about astrology. He talks about spirituality and looking at things in context. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to focus on the full moon, light body energy, and things that I can do to manifest what I need. I also run a program called moonmagic28.info, and I emailed all my clients and said, hey, we got an opportunity here. The energy's on the table for us to take advantage, push toward the goal that we set up 25 days ago, or 3 weeks ago. Just set it up. And the next day, bam, Michael Brown gets executed. He gets executed. And he gets executed around 1:00 p.m. in the afternoon. Right. And it's hot. It's hot in St. Louis,
That's
you know.
Right.
And not only does he get executed, but he is left to lay in the baking sun on the concrete with blood pouring out of him in front of a crowd of non-meditators who are very emotional, who stay in an economically deprived neighborhood, who are disproportionately racially profiled by police over the years in the state that is the last state that abolished slavery. Now, all of these are facts, not like my emotions are not in it. And when even his father tries to approach, they say, no, you can't approach, you can't touch him. You got to just lay it out here. Now, I understand crime scene investigation. They whisked the officer who did the shooting, and by the way, there were eyewitnesses, and everybody's got their camera out. Now,
let me just stop you there for a second, and I want to give you a contrast moment for that. Okay, because I want to go back to Santa Barbara, where our young man Elliot went off on his shooting rampage, theoretically, in Santa Barbara, right? And after he was theoretically taken out and disposed of by the authorities, his body was wrapped and whisked away. There was no crime scene. Just taken away, like lickety split. Like nobody got to study it or be a part of it or witness it. And you contrast that with St. Louis, and here you have an extended crime scene where there is enough emotional shock and trauma being exhibited and projected into the situation that it's disturbing, and in some ways I think probably feeds into this ritual piece that you're talking about. I just wanted to give people kind of a difference, or look at something different, and how these two situations were handled. One was sanitary, quick, and they didn't want anybody looking at it, and the other was, hey, you're going to look at it. We're going to put this in your face.
Oh, you are. I don't know if anybody knows, but Robert Phoenix is psychic, because that is exactly where I was going. You came in right on time, big bro. Now, not only did they leave him laying there, they brought in things to escalate two things: emotions and attention.
Right.
Emotions and attention. So if you bring in a lot of strange white police officers with their hands on their gun and bulletproof vests, and let them look down and and just start giving instructions to strange people in an impoverished neighborhood that they don't know, in a country where the media shows this type of disparity all the time, there's the emotion that they need for the ritual. Look how things are getting boom. We're opportunists, and now we have the emotions are being riled up, and we're gonna let we know that everybody's got a phone, so now there's going to be attention, and nobody can pretend like you don't know about World Star Hip Hop. If you don't know who World Star Hip Hop is, like quickly becoming the black person CNN. If there's a fight in a McDonald's and people record it, they put it on World Star. If they see police brutality, they put it on World Star, because it's just you can just get it on there quick. You can just get on there, and it's all in the spirit of hip hop and music. So some of it is on the lower end of vibrations, but some's on the high end of the vibration as well. So everybody's got their camera. You've got all these police officers, and then everybody's looking at the body, and anger is broiling. The emotions are getting up. And if that's not enough to see this big giant of a man that everybody knows is going to school on Monday, he's going to college on Monday, they put up these small knee-high fluorescent orange barriers around the body. So I was looking directly at the body, but now you put up these, I guess they're like 3x3s. They were like 3 by petitions, and they surround.
And the orange, of course, is bringing attention to, people's attention, so they can, hey, what's over here? There's this orange thing going on. Oh, but it's not high enough that it obscures my view of it. Oh, let me go look closer at this. So, interesting.
Neuro-linguistic programming gone bad. They used it properly. Neuro-linguistic programming. This entire thing is neuro-linguistic programming. That's programming of your mind while you watch something and you don't. But you think.
All right, hey, I'm going to drop something in on this one. You ready?
Come on.
Orange is the new black.
Orange is the new black. Orange is the new black. Orange is and that's just bam. Well, I got to send you some sound effects. You should have dropped some gunshots or a standing ovation on that one or something.
Okay. Well, yeah. You know what I'm saying, right?
Orange is the new black. That's the big show, and then they put this orange up so you can watch it. And guess what? I would imagine, I think it's a safe assumption that a lot of people in that neighborhood have had on orange uniforms at times at going to jail, or know somebody, or they associate the word orange with going to jail or trouble or restriction of my freedom. My restriction has been held back. All right. So now they're leaving them in the street. Like you said, how long does it take to take the pictures and to get the gun casings and to go through everybody's door and ask them what happened? You don't have to leave him laying there on the ground, because there was a girl on the balcony who shot everything. She shot everything with her phone, everything. And like the footage is not hard to find. It's very easy to find. But they're leaving him laying in the yard, in there. And then when they finally move the crime scene and they finally, move the body, here's what happens next that I'm really pissed off, and like how this show probably came up, because you were like, well, Khayr, they're trying to start a race war. And I was like, in my old days, I would like jump in with you and be like, yeah, kind of. But there's such a disparity in economics now. I shot that one down immediately. I was like, because the sinister loses in a race war, but the sinister wins in something farting on the media. He wins in the stock market. He wants to find out how he can capitalize this on the stock market. So when they move the body and all the police go away, here comes a Radio Raheem / Fight the Power / Ice Cube, very emotional, angry, loud black person dressed in black, hollering, fight the power. Now, he wasn't hollering fight the power when the police were there. But when the police left, he got all this courage in him, and he's walking up down the street like a Baptist preacher, misusing the word. And he's like, we are gods and goddesses, and we can't take this shit no more, and we got to do something. I'm sick of this. And he's getting people who normally do not associate with him. And this is why I want to bring this to your attention, and it's very important. The people in the black conscious community who do associate with quote-unquote black consciousness and Moors and Comedics and things like that, they are looked down upon by the Christian blacks. There's a division in the black community amongst consciousness. There you have the religious side, and then you have the spiritual conscious black power side. Because the spiritual consciousness side is like, we don't like white Jesus, and the Christianity, which is the majority and has the numbers, says, yo, we're with Jesus. So we're not. So, and now all of a sudden they come together out of rage. And there's a clip on YouTube, and I'm not YouTubing on Facebook, and I'm watching this guy, and somebody's panning the audience, and the sun has set, but the full moon has just come over the trees. Mm-hmm. Now, this is late in the day. So this is late in the day, around maybe 7 o'clock. Maybe 7 o'clock. The sun's going down, but the moon is clearly just at a point where it's right over the trees, and it's beaming, And the moon is like this. I'll give you the energy to back whatever emotion it is that you have right now. So on one end, if you were like to be having sex with your woman, at the time the moon just comes over the trees, she would think that you were the best lover since whatever. But if you are angry and there's something going on and you are really wanting to get it out, there will be a no-holds-barred rush of emotions that are going to be coming out of you. And the moon is saying, hey, I'm going to charge that up too. Now, I'm just going to, like right there, we have to look at how energy unfolds. Sister Myra says, energy unfolds. We have to back it up until, like, when the shooting occurred, Scorpio was rising. And I'm going to throw the ball back over into your court, and we're going to look at the chart. This is very important that people understand, because I'm going to ask you, Scorpio was rising. Scorpio was on the ascendant. And Mars is in Scorpio. So that means at any time, and is how we look at it in cosmophysics, whether it's 1 degree Scorpio or 29 degrees Scorpio, that means Mars is conjunct the ascendant. And Mars in Scorpio squares the sun in Leo, and all full moons are at the opposite of the present sun. So if you want to draw a diagram, anybody listening, at 12 o'clock, I want you to write S-U-N. At 6 o'clock, I want you to write M-O-O-N. And at 9 o'clock, I want you to write M-A-R-S. Mars at 9, sun at 12, and moon at 6. This forms what we call a T-square. Now, Robert, I'm going to give it back over to you. I'm going to pause my big mouth and let you talk about a T-square with Mars on the ascendant. In your career as a professional astrologer, when you see a T-square like this, and then I throw in, I say, hey, it's a supermoon too, what comes to mind in your professional opinion?
Well, just a quick stop at the supermoon. Jim Birkeland, who used to work for the USGS, got very good at predicting earthquakes with supermoons. In fact, he got so good that he was let go by the USGS. And as a result, he's been pretty accurate with the ability to track these supermoons, proximity to the Earth, and see these tectonic changes occur in the Earth's surface and beneath the Earth's surface. And while we did not have a significant earthquake with this supermoon, we did have a significant social quake or a tectonic ripple in our structure when this occurred. Now, when I look at this chart, I do see that Mars is 7 degrees off of the ascendant, so we're going to conjunct that based on whether it's cosmophysics or even traditional astrology, but it's still coming out of the 12th house. It's a big difference if Mars is on the other side of that demarcation. It's in the 12th house. It is still hidden. It's still occluded. And whenever we see Mars in the 12th house, one of the more traditional descriptions and definitions of Mars is hidden enemies. And so we see Mars hanging out back there, and it's cloaked. And Mars in Scorpio is very powerful. It's very intense. And in the 12th house, its intentions are occluded or hidden. Now, we don't have a complete T-square quite yet with the moon, because the moon is at 2 degrees, but it's in the 3rd house, and it's in Aquarius. So it's not quite fully in opposition of that sun. It's about a 15-degree opposition. But
by
still,
sign,
they're
tugging
on it, though. I get that. They're tugging on it. Now, here's where I think the real meaning of that is that when you get the moon or any other planet that is running upwards towards the conjunction, the energy is accelerating.
Yes, absolutely. And that is exactly what happened later on in the evening.
Yeah. So what you have here is the acceleration of the emotion, right? It's at the beginning. It's just accumulating and starting to get some momentum. And I've done a lot of work on Aquarius, and I've done a lot of work on Gemini, And not every sign is light and not every sign is dark. You go into Scorpio, which is considered the darkest sign, you'll find really powerful, intense emanations of light if you go deep enough and dark enough, self-sacrifice, deep healing, profound emotion, redemption. There's a lot of truth buried in Scorpio. But on the surface, people, will say, well, that is, it's the sign of the devil, or it's the darkest sign, you can't trust Scorpios, blah, 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 right? The same can be said about Aquarius. We have this, this myth in our society that Aquarius is love and light and rainbows, and, we're holding hands and we're all singing Kumbaya as the new age, the dawn of the new age breaks. Well, in Aquarius, there's a whole other dark side of Aquarius. If you look at the star card in the traditional tarot, you'll see that there's a comet in the star card, and the comets are portents of dark and ominous events that are looming. There's a dark side to Aquarius, and the dark side of Aquarius is, these massive social movements that look like fascism or socialism, where everybody is, kind of corralled together into one giant pen. And it's really without a lot of consciousness at all. It's like, here you go. Here is your new world order, or here is your new age, whether you like it or not. And when it's in the third house, which is the house of Gemini, what do we have? We have duality. So we have emotion playing upon duality. This is what I was talking about with the grand chessboard and the whole kind of black-white moving people around duality piece. And why? Because if you look at the energy of Aquarius, it is revolutionary, both in a positive sense and in a negative sense. The Russian Revolution went down when Uranus was in Aquarius. So we have the moon here as a major significator to this chart, and it's squaring Mars. So the intention, the energy, the action is in the 12th house, and it's hitting that moon. Now, the plus side is, you and I are having this conversation. We're talking about this. We're bringing something to light around it. The dark side is that exactly what you've been speaking about are people's emotional signals being triggered and being pulled into this collective ritual. And now there's another iteration of it. Something just happened in Los Angeles. And by the way, one last thing before I hand this back over to you. When I look at this chart, one of the things that really stands out to me is the lack of Earth in this chart. There's Pluto. Pluto is the only planet that anchors any Earth. It's in Capricorn, and it's moving towards that third house, right? It's moving toward. Otherwise, there's no Earth here. There's no grounding. It's all fire, which is heat and passion and anger, and water, which is all emotion. It's all emotion, right? It's all, hey, we're going to feel this. We're going to feel this deeply. We're going to get fired up. The only other thing that stands out is the moon in Aquarius is the only air planet. You got the true node, but that's hidden in the 12th house. So we have moon in Aquarius, the only other air planet. The objectivity, the ability to stand back and to view this thing like you're doing and like what I'm attempting to do, that's gone in this chart. It's not there. Nobody has the astrological hard wiring to take 2 or 3 steps back with us. Instead, what they're getting is they're getting that one piece of that air sort of magic, and it's getting squared off against Mars, and it's opposing the sun. And so when we see planets where there's only 1 or 2 in the charts of a specific element, they can get very stressed and very triggered because they're taking literally all the energy from that chart. Now, if you look at the fire, you've got Uranus and Aries, and we've got that plethora, the stellium of stuff happening up there in Leo. So there's enough fire to be spread around. Same can be said for water, but not so for earth and not so for air. Both of those elements, the lack of grounding and the inability to step back and see this from a different perspective, absent.
Whew, brilliance. Okay, now let me have a little bit. I want a little small piece while I got the chart pulled up as well. I want to add in the aspect of Venus, because Venus is relationships, and is in the third decan of Cancer at this time. So when I have people emotionally involved and clingy in relationships, people are clinging. Because now I'm talking more about the ritual. I did a show on it the following day, that Sunday. I did a show called "What Ritual is Being Played Out" from what information I had at that time. But people were clinging to this brother, and the whole. And when a ritual starts, or when anything starts, you have to look how, like this chart that we're looking at, the one I'm looking at, Robert, is August 9th, 2014, 1 p.m. Central. And that's where it sets off at. That's how it's that was the birthday of this chaotic period that we are in, and people are still clinging to the relationship. And just like in the Trayvon Martin case, this is set up exactly the same, because they're going to drag this out and squeeze every dollar they can out of it, because it's business now. It's business now. It's and the, like you said, the people who don't objectively step back, and they want two things to happen, both of which you can forget about. They either want the cop to commit suicide on national TV, or they want him to go to prison by this weekend. Neither one of those things are going to happen. And so, or they want to, like the bloodthirsties are like, we want justice. So what is justice? What is justice? And here's the thing that I want to ask, and I can say this as a black man. Will black people be satisfied if he was arrested tomorrow? Let's say the new captain of the state trooper says, yo, we're going to go and arrest this dude like George Zimmerman and put him up on the bond. Let's give him $1 million bond, because of course he's a flight risk right now. And let's arrest him right now. Do you think that people are, what? I'm not going to protest anymore. I'm going to chill. No, your energy right now, and especially with the new antagonist in the field, Mr. Anonymous. Mr. Anonymous on Twitter, who's now saying, we're a group of hackers, and if you don't release the name, we're going to start releasing information from inside your database. We're going to start shutting your servers down. And they did that. They started shutting down the servers for the whole town of Ferguson. Now, in a way, I got my hat off to Anonymous, but in a way, I'm saying you definitely are, you may have some righteous intent, but you also have not stepped back either and looked at what's objectively going on, because you're adding more fuel to the money fire. You're adding more fuel to the money fire, because every time there's a rally, there's more emotions in the ritual. So until we know, that's why I said my thing is follow the money. Shout out to Steve Coakley, who was the original code breaker before Phil Valentine, before Sister Myra, before Delbert Blair. When I was like 18 years old at North Carolina Anti-State University, Steve Coakley was the only code breaker out here, and he always said, after you get past the emotions as soon as possible and follow the money trail, that's the way you're going to find out what is the source of the ritual. And now, as I move forward a little bit in the story, it keeps coming back to tobacco for some reason. Ebola comes to Atlanta. Bam, the treatment is going to be grown off the leaf of a tobacco. The three marshals who got gunned down happened to be in a smoke shop. The brother who got choked out up in New York was because he was supposedly selling loose cigarettes. Now they're saying that Michael Brown allegedly stole Cigarello Swisher Sweets. So that's more, all this tobacco. I cannot, if you want to call me a code breaker or whatever, I can't overlook the symbolism. Sister Myra taught me that. Look at the symbolism of all this stuff. Look, what is this tobacco about? What is tobacco used before it was causing cancer and putting cigarettes? What are the ancient ones trying to tell us? What are they telling us when they're saying, look at the tobacco, follow the smoke, the smoking gun? This guy's name is Michael, Archangel Michael. What energy is being released for us to do our own ritual? And to me, my personal pet peeve is when I use the word ritual around the same people who are angry, who have a religious connotation and who are waiting for some type of judicial justice to come down, they say and look at me and say, oh, you must be satanic. No, I can do a ritual for justice. I can do a ritual for peace. I've already done a ritual for the family of Michael Brown. I have his mother's picture on my altar along with her son to ask that and comfort it. That's a ritual. But when you say, we're going to come out here at nighttime, and this is why I said there's going to be no race war. It's impossible for there to be some type of race war because black people don't have the gumption, nor really aren't built like that to go out here and start executing anybody as far as vendettas, because it's such a vague that the still plays on by the movies that they make with white women being afraid of black men and, you know, all of that. But there are no, like, will we kill one another because we're angry? Yeah, but we normally do black on black crime out of short-term retaliation. You don't have any black person in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years who said, I'm going to go out and just start killing a lot of white people because of what happened in slavery. So you can't get the race war out of it. And black people are outgunned, and we know it. We know we don't have the firepower that white people have, and we don't have the budget. We don't have the budget. We don't have money, excess money to just keep going on and buying up guns. When they said that gun sales rose in St. Louis, I guarantee you it was from scared Caucasians. Go back and look at what's the white guy that makes the Bowling for Columbine. You got to go back and all the way back to Bowling for Columbine and see that it is, I'm just speaking very, very bluntly, that white people, and who I've even spoken to who feel bad about slavery, feel that at some point there's going to be some kind of vengeance taken by black people, so they're arming themselves to the T. But what they don't know is we are not a vengeful people. I can speak on levels of that because that's where I'm from and that's where I hang most of the time. But I study people, and I'm now a galactical citizen. I'm looking at this like, what if I was on a spaceship and I'm just watching the news and watching all these events, and I'm like, what in the hell? And I'm looking at the numbers. Let's say like transcendent. If I could go in and look at all the numbers, I know that black people don't have the firepower or purchasing power to actually do anything, and that this is an emotional outburst because of the lunar energy and adrenaline, because people are angry. And then the last part, that's the worst of all, is the fake-ass leadership that black people allow to come in and speak with them. And the sinister knows this. When the mayor from St. Louis came on CNN, he says the first people we reached out to were the clergy. The clergy are your handlers, black people. The clergy are not your friend. They're your handlers, because they know at any time they can emotionally stir you to stand down. They can emotionally stir you to stand down. It's called a circuit breaker to riots of Watts and of Chicago in the early 60s. And breaking. If too much power runs through a circuit breaker, it cuts off. So the sinister says, hey, Mr. Clergy, let's get all these angry people to come down to your house of worship, charge them $1 to get in or have an offering, and that's how we're going to pay you. They're going to pay you. We're not going to pay you. They're going to pay you. And let's scream and shout to you about what they're mad about, and then you promise that you're going to do something, and you scream back to them, and at the end of the night, you just send them home, but you don't go home with them. Case in point, 2004. And his name is punk-ass rat Al Sharpton, a paid FBI informant. He's right. You don't get off the payroll for the FBI if you're an informant. Let's say that. They will squeeze you when they want to. They will squeeze you when they want to. This is some of my old conspiracy theorists coming out. I was a retired conspiracy theorist, but for today's argument, I'll come out and join Robert.
I appreciate that.
They will squeeze you when they want to, Al Sharpton. And my running joke is they took his backbone when they went in and took his stomach. He was really, they came in and did the surgery. They said, well, while we're in here getting his stomach, it's so close to his backbone, let's get his backbone too. And now Al Sharpton comes in and he's the circuit breaker. I'm going to, because one question people would have saying follow the. But I want to ask you just in general. Just pretend I walked up to you on the street. You have been following this very loosely, and I said, Robert, the family of Michael Brown is trying to raise a funeral. They don't even have it. Who paid for Al Sharpton's ticket to Missouri?
Exactly.
Who paid for the black limousine Cadillac that he's riding in?
Who pays for his suits? That's what I want to know.
Who pays for his suits? Who pays for his hair? You see what I'm saying? Who's paying for that? And the USA Today, to me, is paying for it because Sharpton, the editor of the USA Today or CNN, I see dollar signs.
Yeah.
I see dollar signs. And so now there may be somebody who's from St. Louis listening right now saying, the fuck, Michael Brown is dead, and y'all looking at the money. You know why? Because that's exactly what the Sinister is doing. And I'm playing chess, and the Sinister's playing chess, and you're not, because there's another video about, okay, then this is the worst part. I'm going to pass it back over to you. The police in St. Louis said, we're going to issue a curfew. This was, I think, the first night. And they said, be off the streets by 12 o'clock. No, it was the 10th. So the day of the supermoon, the opposition, the Sinister, tells his handlers, the police, to go out and tell this angry mob of black people who are saying that we're going to do a candlelight vigil and we're going to do a peaceful march. You're going to tell them and say, don't do this. Now, in childhood, when you tell somebody don't do something, they immediately resist. That's a child. So when you have a grown person and you're saying get off the streets, now they didn't go vote. Here's the crazy part. Out of a town, I just got this stat today, out of a town of 21,000 blacks, 1,500 voted last. And you want to come on the streets and say, give me justice. You don't have anybody to speak for you. You haven't shown any numbers. You haven't shown any political power whatsoever, and so don't respect you. You're not being respected. And they're like, who cares what you say? You can sit in the street all you want, but we don't respect you because you come out and play. It's time for you to do your voice. You sit there and say, I'm mad at the government, down with the government, I'm not participating. But then when one of our own gets killed, I want the government about, like Saturn doesn't know that you're talking to a bunch of sovereign Moors who say that the U.S. owes them reparations and they don't have to pay taxes. They're marching in the front of the line with their fingers on about how sovereign I am. I don't pay taxes, but I'm going to support Al Sharpton and whoever comes down here to say that we want the federal government to come in and protect our human or civil rights. Mm-hmm. To me, you're playing checkers, and you're playing even a bad game of checkers. Not even a decent game of checkers. You're just pushing checker pieces. Not even pushing chess pieces with a checker mentality. You're pushing checker pieces like a poor checker player. And you're letting the emotions, people are using your money, the stage has been set. How much money do you think was generated in these organized candlelight vigils that they had yesterday in like 4 major cities? I think it was New York, and had one, Philadelphia, maybe LA, something like that. And then you go on Twitter and say, happening right now, put your hands up, don't shoot, shuts down Times Square. Oh, and here's the other part. There's a video. Please type in Al Sharpton demands transparency. And then I want you to type in, I'll put that in Google and look at that video, and then I want you to type in distress, Masonic distress symbol. It's the same body language. It's the same body language. When you put your hand, Al Sharpton involved in a ritual. Are Masons involved in rituals? Sure. Are they involved in some evil ritual right now involving Mike Brown? Hell no. Hell no. The Masons don't have shit to do with this ritual. They see what's going on, but they're like, wow, I don't have shit to do with this one. This is out of our hands. We got some rogue members, though. Because you have a rogue member like this, if there's a, I don't know because a white cop shot a black unarmed man. But, hey, I don't want all white people hating black people because a black person shot and people look at me and think I'm a Rastafarian because I have dreadlocks. I've never been to Jamaica. I studied the science, but I'm not a Rasta, and we have these very shallow views, and that's the problem. That's why I'm glad Robert had me on the show, so we can step back a little bit, breathe, chill out, and listen to somebody who's saying, yo, let me add a little wisdom here and give you some science and take some of the emotions out of it and give you control back. I'm not taking anything away from the travesty. Am I angry at the cop who shot him? Absolutely. Is it some bullshit? Absolutely. But is how you're reacting to things, is that some bullshit too? It is very much bullshit because in history it has never worked. And as we move into the Aquarian age, we must abandon techniques that don't work anymore. Sister Myra says it all the time. You know, you can't keep doing things that work and think that they're going to start popping off right now. Look what happens. Then you want to do your ritual at nighttime. They told you to be off the street at 12. You go out there and put your hands up. These cops are not watching. These cops order the news to just listen and be programmed and do exactly what your orders are, or you'll be fired because they're living check to check just like you are. They're living check to check just like you, and they have psychological deficiencies just like you, except they're just employed by a more careful handler. And so you come at nighttime where you can't see. If your tensions are high and your energy is high, then their energy is high. The example we used on the show the other night, Robert, was if you're riding around in your car and your music is really, really loud and you got those 15s in your car and you ride by a car who has an alarm system and your car, the music in your car, sets off the alarm, but you didn't physically touch it. Isn't that an expression of how energy moves without physical contact?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great analogy. You know, I was just online here, just for my own edification and curiosity. I wanted to find out if Al Sharpton is indeed a Mason, and I went to a website, BibleBelievers.org.au. Of course, the Christians are very into turning out the Masons and the Freemasonic agenda according to their worldview or their celestial or cosmic worldview, their religious worldview. And sure enough, Al Sharpton is listed as a 33rd degree Mason, and he's right there with Reverend Robert Schuller. So they're both playing the game. Walt Disney, also a Mason. A lot of people. Very interesting site if you want to check this out. BibleBelievers.org.au. Just type in /33rd, and you'll be able to check that out. One of the things that, if you want to talk about following the money, Khayr, let's look at the 24-hour news cycle. People want to watch CNN. They want to watch MSNBC. They want to watch Fox. They want their worldviews reified and affirmed. So if you're liberal or progressive, you're going to tune into generally CNN or MSNBC, and you're going to find people from the liberal or the progressive side that are covering this thing 24/7. Of course, when you've got eyeballs, you've got attention. And that's one factor that needs to be discussed and looked at. You know, people are plugging into this from their various, points of view, their own personal narrative. The other thing, too, is that these news sites, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, they are dying. They're having a hard time holding their numbers up. Why? Because the internet. People are finding alternative information. People are finding new ways to understand what's happening with reality on a daily basis. I mean, case in point, Robin Williams passes away, and within 48 hours, there's a bevy of posts and videos looking at what's behind Robin Williams, some of the things that might have contributed to his death, the more sinister tropes or memes that are related to it, and that's just within 48 hours. The news organizations, the big news sources, they're dinosaurs. Number one, they're serving content that is going to be slanted by their corporate bias. That's one of the things. And number two, they just can't react fast enough. And we've got millions of people out here with computers and internet access, and for the last 3 to 4 to 5 years, people have been studying. People have been breaking down symbolism. People are getting a sense as to what's taking place, and they are just outpacing mainstream news. So what does mainstream news have to do? Mainstream news has to get involved in events like this so that they can bring eyeballs back to their business model and also get people's attention hijacked. So when you say follow the money, the mainstream news corporations have a real stake in this, just on that level alone. And they're going to pump this up for as much as they can, for as long as they can, until the next thing comes along, whether it's Elliot Rodger or whether it's the kids down in Las Vegas, whatever that thing is, white, black, white, flipping the script. They're gonna push this so they can get numbers. Plain and simple bottom line. The other piece here with following the money, ever since the Department of Homeland Security has come into its inception and was begun just after 9/11, we've seen the militarization of the police force in the United States because Homeland Security gets all this money, and they're giving this money to police departments. And guess what? Now the police can go out and they can buy anything they want. They can go out and they get a tank, they can get LRADs, you name it, they can get it. The one thing they can't do is they can't hire more police. Now isn't that interesting? Where they probably need the greatest infusion of capital to staff themselves so they can have more people out in the streets or running data or whatever it is that they need. They can't do it. But they can go out and they can go to a convention in Las Vegas and they can find the latest toys and they can buy those and they can bring them back to their city. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing the militarization of local police. And there's a huge amount of money that's going into that. Now, if you're somebody that's in St. Louis, on the other side of the tracks, and you're seeing this or witnessing this, you're saying to yourself, hey, I want my police to have fucking tanks. I want them to have surface-to-surface missiles if it comes down to it, because I want to be safe. I want to be protected. And so now we have this whole mindset of security versus freedom, which has been proliferating ever since 9/11. So these events, they serve a lot of purposes. The divide and conquer. And when we get into opposition, the whole black-white thing, the Gemini program, which is what I call it, that opposition creates a flux field. And in that flux field, there's energy, which is what you're talking about. And in that energy, things can happen. Rituals, obviously, but it's the energy to use to advance an agenda or a protocol or whatever that thing is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if we are at each other's throats, if we are accusing one another of being the bad guy, doesn't matter if you are a black consciousness more or a white nationalist separatist, you're doing the same thing, you're playing the same game, you're playing right into it. You're playing right into this whole meme. And the thing to do is to step out of it. We have to step out of this. And we have to all realize that we are being manipulated and we are being played. And the most important thing that is being hijacked is our spirit and our consciousness. So this is a big deal. The other thing, too, and I just want to make everybody aware of this, there is a great deal of attention being focused on Israel and what was happening to the people of Gaza and all the Palestinians and all the children that have been maimed and murdered and put into a state of trauma. And guess what? We're not talking about that now. That's not where the news cycle is. Now we're focusing on this one event or maybe another event. So again, this is magic. Watch this hand while the other hand is doing something else. So now our attention has been diverted, and we're no longer really having that X-ray examination of what's taking place in Palestine. So these things fit into a much larger social context. And I think the best thing that we can do, which is what you're doing, which is what I'm doing, which is what we're all trying to do, is to step back and kind of see what's taking place. And to be in a place where, and this is the challenging part, to be as non-reactive as possible. Because when we get into reactivity, that's when we're feeding the beast. We're feeding the beast. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you believe in. We're feeding the beast. Let's see it for what it is. Let's call it out. Let's call it out. That's the important part. Let's give it some air. Let's give it some light. Let's bring it to attention. Now we're running the attention game, not them.
Right.
So I think this is where we need to go. And it's a tough job because we've got to stay on top of this, right? Now, there's a whole other school of thought, which is based on the revelation of the method or the externalization of hierarchy, and that by doing this, we're actually playing into it at the same time. I kind of disagree with that. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, man, you and I are talking about it. We're having a conversation. And I think that we're a couple steps closer to wrapping our heads around why the hell this stuff occurs and why it's bled to death, literally bled to death.
It's bled to death. It's bled to death because we are. This is, and I've had this philosophy, and this is everything. So like, I'm gonna give you that game. So sometimes people say things, and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna give you that. All right, I'm gonna give you that. So some people say black people do things better than everyone else. Okay, watch this. Let's say I give you that. Then what about if I say everyone in America has an addictive personality? And then you have to come back and say black people do that better than everybody else. We are so addictive. I said it. Nobody can say anything to Robert Phoenix. He probably got a little brother or sister up in him somewhere, but I said it as a black man. And I know I got some European up in me. I ain't stressed. There are no more straight races anyway. Listen, you didn't even come here. I just have to drop this in here. All of you are extraterrestrials, including myself. Your ass didn't just jump up and just pop up on Earth like some new phenomenon. This is not the center of the fucking universe. Damn. Okay? So stop all the, we all came from Africa. I only have one question. Where were you before Africa? Ha. Okay, we came from the water. Okay, where were you before the water? So this whole division shit, we do that better than anybody else with having addictions to this whole thing saying, I need to have racial pride. Why can't you have love pride? Because if we would have had love pride, then there would have been some love pride maybe rubbing off on the police officer when he initially drove by Michael Brown and was like, what's up, guys? I love y'all. What about if the police officer would have rolled by and said, what's up, y'all? I love y'all. Honk, honk. How many police officers can ride by in a neighborhood with the windows down and honk at a person of another, anybody, not even the same or opposite ethnicity, and say, what's up, I love you guys, you little young black guys on the sidewalk, what's up, I love you. But we here, like you said, the media squeezing every dollar out of it, of saying the cops get caught on CNN. Here's the stupid part. Please stop falling for somebody accidentally getting caught on CNN doing something. The fuck is wrong with you? Go watch Wag the Dog immediately. The world's a stage, baby. The world's a stage. You think they got cops who got good sense on the front lines in front of the camera? They got the most ridiculous ones. Hey, you go stand over there. I know you don't like.
Well, they have actors in many cases, Khayr. They're not even cops. They're people in uniforms. That follows right in with all the world stage. Let's do this. We have about a little less than an hour left in the show. There's a lot of people in the queue to talk. We got a lot of people here who want to talk. Let me play a little bit of music, and then we're going to come back. We're going to take some phone calls. So if you want to chime in on this, if you have an idea, you got a perspective, you have a take, you want to bring it, let's do that. And we're going to get to as many people as we can in the next hour. And let's try to keep your points succinct, right? Let's get to it. Let's stay focused. Let's stay on the beam. We'll try to work through all these calls. So you're listening to the Friday FARcast. I'm talking with Khayr Love. And tell you what, let's light one up right now. Let's light one up. Sit back.
Let's light one up, baby.
Take it easy.
I like that. That's my man, Robert Phoenix, right there. He was like, yo, let's light one up.
John Trudell.
Right.
Grassfire. This is Grassfire. John Trudell. All right, so I'll be back here in about 4 minutes and 3 seconds. You're listening to Friday FARcast.
In between the blues, there are good days and bad days, with everything and nothing to lose. While the setting sun never sits, and the night has no limits. The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality, a need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. Like a grass fire.
In the unnatural society, been trying to maintain, while the sane appear to be clearly insane, with no way to explain. Outlasting the great lie, a sparking spark does my mind. Grass fire, pulling the sky, breathing in sativa's design.
Grass fire in a world that yearns. That's the way this fire burns. It's a grass fire.
The void between freedom and free, dealing with the unnatural reality, a need to see, a need to be. Grass fire, my DNA needs THC. Dreaming of long times past, all that those times brought, looking to the heart of tomorrow. Grass fire in a world that yearns, that's the way this fire burns.
All right, that was Grass Fire by John Trudell and it's a love poem, the Marijuana, if you haven't figured that out. And props to John, who seems to have gotten through his bout with cancer, which is not easy. And he seems to be coming out of it. He's back in the studio recording and even started to do some live shows. So, John, we wish you all the best and continue to get better and stay healthier. All right, so we're talking with Coach Khayr Love, Coach K, and we are breaking down this event here in Ferguson, Missouri. It is a subdivision of St. Louis. And we're trying to get to this point where we're seeing this from a fairly objective place and getting beyond the game. And we're looking at how all sides get played. And I just had an interesting series of posts in the chat room, and they were from, who was this? It was anti-NWO racism, African MLK. And some of it had some of his posts were, really on point. But again, I want to bring this to the attention of anybody who's listening. We are now in a technological endgame. And what I mean by that is that technology, if you look at what's happened with technology, and we started off just all basically, pulling carts and pushing stones around, and manual labor was the way things got built on this planet, and it took a lot of us. And then eventually we got to the age of machines, which was the beginning of the industrial era, and the amount of people that it took to continue to move the earth or carve the earth or move bricks or whatever it was exponentially less, probably about half. But we still needed people to run the machines and to build the machines. Now, if we move forward into the 20th century and we look at the age of industrialization, and we look at the assembly line, just by the assembly line alone, you used to have a person at every station of the assembly line. Now you have a person that starts the assembly line. They're operating it. You have a person at the end of the assembly line, and you may have one person in between doing quality control and checking on things. Everything else is robotic. It's all robotic. All those people, they've been replaced. Now we go to the age of computerization, and we had to have people to build the computers, to write the code, to write the software. We're getting to a point now where computers will be writing their own software, writing their own code. We're reaching this level where Skynet is about to be activated. And when we get there, there's going to be a need for less humans. That's just plain and simple. It's a numbers game. And so when we get into this divide and conquer piece where it's white against black or brown or whatever, we all have to understand that we're a statistic that's about to happen. And as long as we're distracted long enough from the big picture, just go down to Georgia where Khayr is near. He's in Georgia. Go to the Georgia Guidestones. You can see it. It's all mapped out. So this is not a war against one another that we should be waging. It's really an enlightened engagement with this new paradigm, this new technological paradigm that for the most part is being employed by people who have more money on this planet than you and I will ever begin to dream about or consider, and perhaps some dark forces behind them. And what do they want? They want the planet. They want the planet. They want the resources. They want a lot less people. We can get into another show with soul harvesting, whatever that entails. But that's what they want. In the meantime, they will soak up our psychic energy when we get into events like this, where they divide and conquer us to the best of their abilities. Does that mean you just have to roll over and lay down? No. You don't. Stay engaged. Stay in love. Find alternative ways of doing things. But more importantly, connect and communicate. And let's do that right now with Coach Khayr. Welcome back, Coach.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I want to say something real quick before you took the first caller. Explain what a protest is. So a protest is when people gather on their own to say, we object to this. But a protest is when a pimp-type figure comes in and says, I need 100 strong black men to come out and tell me that they're going to be the watchers of the night and be on the front of this and be on the front lines of this movement. And you don't know that the pimp leader that came in is getting paid $100 a head if he can guarantee he can bring at least 100 young black men. Let's take Al Sharpton's video. You can just type in Al Sharpton Memorial in the church. And he says, I want 100 black men, young black men right now. After a nice long speech, and he just got everybody fired up. He looks and he lets our paws down, and then he says, hey, I want 100 strong black men. Just imagine if whoever sent him, where's the money trail? If they said, I give you $100 a head, can you give me 100 people to pledge that they'll go down in front? That's 10 grand he makes one night. 10 grand that you can never see because, like Robert says, these people have got so much money, it could be $1,000 a head. We'll give you $1,000 a head, all in cash, bills that are off the market. Get in the car and look up under the seat, and there'll be a briefcase. If you can guarantee me you can get 100 people to go out here tonight so we can test out these new flares, test out these new stuff that we bought. Because like you said, the taxpayers said, buy this stuff for us. So that's a whole test. You're not protesting because you thought that it was genuine. Listen to the person who's insisting that go out there but didn't go out there with you. Al Sharpton's in no video marching whatsoever. He's not gasping from getting gassed. He doesn't have his hands up. You Howard University students who put your hands up, As where is Al Sharpton's picture where he's at the front of the march with his hands up when the gas is flying at nighttime? It's not happening. Was the other conspiracy theory thing. Somebody asked me, they said, am I going to address the thing about if they're using drones to control people? They don't need drones to control anybody in this scenario. They don't need it. They don't need anybody. They don't need to use any drones. They don't have to use any HARP. Anyway, this one was just massively put together at the right time, advantages of people. So for those particular conspiracy theorists, and the question, she says, are you going to address the fact and possibility that these are robots and clones committing these heinous crimes? No, these are human beings who may have had their soul harvested and may be soulless, but that doesn't mean they're a robot or a clone. So you need to keep listening to
so I found that comment to be really interesting because you can be a robot without actually being hooked up with a circuit board. People are turned into robots all the time, but acting automatically and thinking mechanically. It happens. And as far as a clone goes, I do believe that there are clones and there are soulless beings in this world, but that might be a different show. Let's take a call here. Let's get into some. Let's get on the street. Let's go to the 304. They've been on for a while. Hi there. Thanks for calling in. You're on the air with Robert and Coach Khayr. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what do you want to talk about? Hello? All right, put you back on hold. Let's try another one. 832, you are on the air live. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what would you like to talk about? Hello? We got a lot of listeners today, man. Not a lot of talkers. Interesting. Let's try another one.
One, talk. People press 1 if you got something to say. Press 1. Let's get it.
720, you are live. Are you listening or are you calling in? Press 1 if you want to talk. Hello. All right. Put them back on hold. Interesting. Let's do, how about 832? Here we go. 832, you're back on.
Hey, I'm just listening.
Okay, so we got a lot of listeners. That's cool. So if you're just listening, that's fine. And we'll just sort through this. Bear with us. Let's go to 404. 404, you're on the air. Hello. Yep. So, okay, here we got listeners.
Hey, it's okay because I still want to talk about, I'm ready to go into the cover-up now. If we can take callers, but I'm ready to talk about this whole Swisher Sweet bullshit. That right there is really...
You know what was really interesting? When you were talking about that, this whole tobacco thing, obviously, unfortunately, it has these echoes and these emanations of plantations, and there's that whole kind of, meme that gets rattled around people's heads, and it goes back to Africa, and we're talking about Ebola, and we're talking about plague and tobacco, and there's this. It's just we're entering into this really dark funnel with this symbolism in a lot of ways, right? I mean, it's fascinating, but obviously there's a money side to it, but there's also a psych side to this. So why don't you get into the cover up and let's see where that goes.
Okay, so now here's where if I've been unpopular at the beginning of the show, I'm going to get really popular right now. I'm going to talk about for them to release the name. Why did it take to release the name? So Coach Khayr has not always been a metaphysical breakdown guy. I used to be involved in crime, and I had to hire lawyers to help get me out of trouble and keep me out of jail. And one lawyer who was really cool with me, that's the best lawyer to get, not just because he's cool with me, because he trusts me enough.
All right, we have a bit of a dropout with Coach. Okay, you dropped out. So just to get you up to speed here, we're talking about Ferguson and East St. Louis with Khayr Love, and he was about to go into the cover-up. It's always good radio, isn't it, when somebody's about to go into the details of the cover-up and they go away. But he's back again. Here we go.
Hey, my fault. Some people say I was unpopular by some of the things. I didn't talk about the police, but now everybody's wondering, Okay, so why did it take so long to release the name? All right, why did it take so long to release the name? So I have to go back to history before spiritual and enlightened and all that. I used to be in the streets. I used to have a lawyer because I would get caught up with the police and the cops and things like that. And the lawyer told me once, said, hey, they can come back later and change the search warrant. The original search warrant is always changed. He said, because they can come back and edit it at any time, and we know that. We know what the game is. That's why I'm charging you this much money. So the report for the alleged robbery at the Quick Trip that has a picture of a tall, headset Michael Brown, but there's no timestamp on it, and Michael Brown didn't have on flip-flops when he was laying on the ground. Go look up all the pictures and see if you can find Michael Brown with flip-flops. How could Michael Brown, and in the picture that they put up, the guy's got on flip-flops. Now, how could he, did he have boots outside the store and he decided to wear his flip-flops inside the store? Impossible. Why isn't there a timestamp saying what time he was in the store? And then, if he's going to college on Monday, I would feel some cigarettes. Well, for those of you who don't know, Swisher Sweets are a popular brand of tobacco leaf cigarillos that are mini cigars that people who smoke blunts, they break it open, dump the guts out, and then they put in the weed and they smoke the blunts. Instead of smoking joints, they're smoking in the cigarillos now. That's how it's going down. So now they're doing defamation of character. Defamation of character, just like they did Eric Gardner. So now let's say they're trying to say, yo, he stole or tried to steal some college on Thursday. On Monday. Why would I be stupid enough to go in here and steal some cigarillos if I'm smart enough to go even to a technical college? Why? I'm 18 and I know I stay in a racist-ass suburb of St. Louis. He's homegrown, so he's not going to do anything stupid like that. And then they go back and they file the police report, which they finally released. So the chief of police comes on the day. He says, I'm going to release the name of the officer, Darren Wilson. I'm not taking any questions, and I'm going to give out an information pack from my officers. My officers are going to pass out an information pack. And in the information pack, they are showing a copy of a police report, and it said that the initial call came in at 11:51. Now, 11:51 puts Libra on the ascendant. And they're showing, I'm going to figure out what you can call and type in. Just type in, just type in the name Darren Wilson, St. Louis, and then you'll start to see them showing the police reports. So when they show the police, when you read it, it says he's standing over. Michael Brown is looming over the person who's working in the store, because the person in the store attempted to come from behind the counter with his keys to lock the door, and Michael Brown stands over him, and it looks like he's intimidating him. Intimidating him? Are you serious? And now I can say that, well, this call is why. Remember when the eyewitness said they were walking, they were almost home, and the truck drove by, slams on brakes, and then backs up. So he's doing racial profiling, because if it's a big guy, 6 foot tall, and I'm riding by, and I all of a sudden get a call, but in the report it says at 11:51 he gets the call at 11:51. He has to go back to the store. Let's follow the timeline. He has to go. So that's an hour and 9 minutes before the shooting goes down at 1 o'clock. That means he had to go back to the store, ask the curator what happened, and then now he's driving down the street, and it's been like a half an hour, 45 minutes. And then you see these two black guys walking down the street. Here's the other ridiculous part about why isn't anybody demanding that the dash cam footage be released? Why isn't anyone demanding that the dash cam footage be released? And I don't care if the Ferguson Police Department says it wasn't on. or they weren't installed yet. I saw a report that said that the cop camera that they're going to be putting on all the cops, they have them, but they're in the box in the station. Oh, how convenient. Why do people keep falling for bullshit convenience? And now we're going to release the name, and I'm not being racial, but I've never heard a white person with a name like Darren Wilson, ever. Like, in my mind, that just is like, and remember, Robert, I asked you, I said, what if the cop was black? And I was like, just what if the cop was black? Because everybody's calling for blood. But now I say, they took so long because they had to arrange their story. They had to go back and get this footage. Isn't it funny how they got the footage and then now they're ready to release it? So when the police officer comes, the police officer, I'm looking for the statement. He made some type of statement to say, we had an organization, we had some kind of meeting last night. We had some kind of meeting last night with the shareholders. What do you mean you had a meeting with the shareholders? And then we decided today was a good day to release it, not because of any pressure. And then they all of a sudden said, this is when people start fumbling over their speech. And you start just picking holes in it. And it's very messy. That's why the state troopers, I don't believe that Obama or the governor said state troopers step in because it's too violent. I think they said step in because it's too messy. You country bumpkins are too messy. You're making a total mess of this entire scenario. So they step in and they say, 2 days ago they said, we normally do not release the name of an officer until he's been formally charged. What more evidence do you need after 7 days for at least for him to come in and say we came in and we've questioned him? Like, there's been no talk about we've talked to the officer or anything like that. Is the officer still living? I went and typed in Michael Brown, Darren Wilson. You would expect his picture still hasn't been released. Why hasn't his picture been released? And why is it that when I do type in Darren Brown, I come up with this really nice-looking white guy? He just looks so jovial. You just want to kiss him.
Darren Wilson. You mean Darren Wilson?
Darren Wilson. Excuse me, Darren Wilson. Type in Darren.
I want to dovetail with this. So let me jump in here if I can. Okay.
Come on.
I've done the same thing, and Darren Wilson is actually a film director. And he's a Christian film director, and he's apparently made a movie called Finger of God, and the movie is about it's about sort of an end times scenario, but unlike a lot of other end time scenarios where we see locusts and plagues and blood and wars, he's talking about miracles. He's talking about manna in the Pentagon and gemstones from the heavens, and the red dead being raised, and thousands of teenagers spontaneously doing healing. So, this is a very interesting kind of, divergence with the material on some level, and yet we have this kind of simulacra of Darren Wilson, who is obviously talking about some form of prophecy with the video, with his DVD. And if you notice, within 1 week, we've had the name Will show up 2 times. Last week it was Robin Williams, Will I Am. And here we have the son of the Will. So it's really interesting how these events are kind of aggregating. And what are we doing? We are abdicating our will. We abdicate our will when we get engaged in the reaction game, when we take sides like this. And look, I'm going through my own kind of personal revolution along with you in this area, because I could do a whole show on it. But so what we're seeing here is the will. The will is the key word. Son of the will I am. Darren, Robin and Darren. I'm Darren you. I'm robbing you. Whatever that is, right? And it's all around the will. So, and the will, of course, is what? A will is a legacy. That's what it is. It's also a legacy. And when we get into legacy, where do we go? We go to Scorpio. That's the sign that rules legacy. So there is no picture of Darren Wilson. He may be black, he may be white, but it took them, to your point, 7 days now
7 days.
Yeah, so it went from the 9th to, what, it was the 14th, so that's 5 days, so 6 days. So 6 days worth of editing, and whatever it is they're going to do, to alter reality for their purposes. And you know that you're exactly right, going back to the beginning of the show, all this stuff is out there. The dash cam is there. The dash cam probably recorded all of this, all the events, not to mention the fact that we're all under, pretty much high-powered, militarized computer surveillance, which can, zero in on almost any event at any time at a macro level. So to think that anything that we do in public is private is ridiculous and not recorded as well. So this whole notion that they've had to wait all this time for this to occur is ridiculous. They had it all at their disposal. They're just trying to do a little forensic cleanup on their end. That's my sense here.
If everybody can please just go watch Wag the Dog. Just that's all you have to do. Is there's I don't know who was that, Robert De Niro or whoever that was the lead person.
It was Dustin Hoffman.
There's a Dustin Hoffman somewhere calling the shots, Eddie. There's a Dustin Hoffman calling the shots right now saying, just relax, we're going to make this happen, we're going to make this happen, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What I'm going to do is even astrologically, I'm just going to look at 10 o'clock this morning. I'm just going to say that the story broke at 10 o'clock this morning. Libra was rising in St. Louis. 10 o'clock this morning in St. Louis, Libra was rising. Let's release this to ease some tensions because everything they do is calculated. If you think that, here's the thing, before there can be a martial law imposed, let me rephrase that, before a martial law is imposed on a town of citizens, the government has already been martialized. A week before or days before. They don't just come in and tell the government officials and the police military at the same time as they're telling the citizens. They're going to tell the government and the local government first what we're going to come in and do. I'm sure that Robin, the Dustin Hoffman in this came in and said, hey, I see that you all have spent X amount of millions of dollars at that auction over there in Vegas, and you got some military tanks. Can we roll that out for 2 or 3 nights? Y'all got any rubber bullets or something? I need y'all to just smash up some cameramen and put a couple people in jail for a little while. It'll all wash over. It's okay because, they're forgiving people, and I already know how this is going to play out, but I really need to get it to a fever pitch right now. Just don't kill anybody else because you guys are sloppy. He's had the conversation with the officer. You did what? You did, he's probably looking at him like, yo, I should kill you myself. They want to kill you, and I should kill you myself because you're sloppy. Because that's what this is. And the brotherhood, though, now we go back into not the Masons, but the police themselves, the Fraternal Order of Police is a brotherhood. And they're like, oh, my God, we got to keep our oath and protect our brother. But what my father said when I was real young, my father put my sister out of the house when she was like 23 or 24. And I was like, that's your daughter. He said, blood is thicker than water, but right is thicker than blood. And what he meant was you can't, and my sister wasn't selling dope. She said, you can't just think I'm going to just co-sign on you doing wrong because you're my blood. And that's the thing that I think that the sinister favors. The sinister says, or just like gangs, yo, man, we Crips or we Bloods. You got to stick with me. I robbed this bank and I murdered, so you can't snitch on me. Yo, you were wrong for robbing. You were wrong for shooting that person. So that whole premise, like where's the cop who knows what's going on the Ferguson police force who's going to come forward and say something?
Oh, they won't. They can't. They won't. That's exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know if you've seen it, but a lot of those guys who are on the police department, when they take their pictures, they all have bald heads. I mean, they all look like they're, the muscle men from the National Front, or the Aryan Nation. I mean, they're just, it's not a good look. What happened to hair? Did hair go out of style at some point? So yeah, I mean, obviously there's a bigger game taking place. and the bigger game is manipulation. And they will use astrology. They will use symbols for whatever purpose they need to promote or hijack or amplify their events, and in so doing, rob us of our will. You're listening to the Friday FARcast. I'm talking with Khayr Love. Khayr, what else you got going on in your life? I know you do a lot of astrology work and spiritual stuff. Maybe you want to switch tracks a little bit here and tell people some of the things you're doing.
Thank you. I have the 16th, which is tomorrow. Like as soon as I get off of your show, I have to go back to taking care of my people today. My people meaning my clients. Every month I have something called Moon Magic, and I'm watching the 8 phases of the moon and helping people to manifest 2 goals per month, one internal and one external. And what happens is every 3.5 to 4 days, I send my clients an email letting them know that there's another video up showing them proper action to, because some people have to be fundamentally led into success building. And I call it my Cultivating Winners program. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the show is we got to cultivate winners by taking a step back and looking at the big picture. So the program starts tomorrow, and it's all about following the moon and its energies so we can have what I want to manifest and stop being a victim of what somebody else is wanting to have manifested. So everybody who is in my program, like I have some people who are getting PhDs this month. I have 3 PhD candidates who are using the program to stay focused on finishing their dissertation. I have a person getting a new car. I have a couple of people getting houses and changing jobs. Some people want to leave their job and become an entrepreneur, but they don't know how to brand themselves. So I feel the Creator has blessed me in this incarnation with a magnificent toolbox with a lot of tools. So I'm on the business end, I'm on the spiritual end, I'm on the healing end. I do the metaphysics a little something, but I want to show people how to be more prosperous in those 3 areas. It's like Mitchell Gibson said, prosperity, health, and harmony. Like, does your relationship need help? Most people still, relationship needs help. Do you have some health issue that needs attention, that may be meditating for 28 days? I remember last month, a young lady said, this is the first day in 45 years, the first time in my life that I've been happy for 28 days, because at the very beginning, tomorrow we start with the peace phase, and you have to remain at peace for 28 days. And people don't understand how much self-defense, how much mental self-defense and psychic self-defense, and how important that is to remain at peace at all times. Even if you just have your clear quartz crystal in your left pocket, and just rub it. Like, it should have been a quartz crystal cell when Michael Brown got shot. But none of my people were like, oh my God, we're just enraged. I was like, yo, stay focused, because they got an email the day before saying, stay focused on your work. Everybody was focused on their work, and it wasn't that we were not in mourning for the tragedy, or we weren't shaken by it or taken aback, but I'm not going to be distracted while I'm this close. This full moon is here. I've been working for 3 months to prepare for this energy. I'm not going to just knock over the whole cake pan now. I've been getting my supplies. I've been putting things in it. I've been removing things that are no longer useful for me. And I've been teaching this program for 5 years, Robert. I was on it for 1.5 years myself, and then I started coaching it after that. I initially started doing it with the Juju Mama Love Academy, and but the brother who showed it to me, he wasn't even an astrologer, and I started just looking at it closer and closer. And I know I've helped. I don't know if it's been 1,000 yet, but it's probably close to over 1,000 people that I have coached over a 5-year period using this magic system. And I'm really excited. I'm ready to put this to bed. I'm glad that you let me. The phase of the moon that we're in right now is a celebratory phase. So we're supposed to celebrate our observation. I want to celebrate Robert for what a great job he's doing. I want to celebrate you for being on Guyam television with the 11th house. You know, people should be watching your channel and looking at dreams come true. I've had my son's transiting my 11th house right now, and I've been having a lot of dreams come true in my life, like just opportunities that have come to me that I was like, I couldn't have even planned for this. I've talked about it before, but I didn't really do this, and all of a sudden it just fell in my lap. But it didn't fall in my lap because I don't focus on the how. I focus on the what I want to be manifested in. So if anybody's interested in the Moon Magic program, you're listening to the show, go over to moonmagic28.info. The video explains everything. If you're following me on Facebook, I will be creating something on there and posting some videos so you can get on that. But let's move past letting someone else control your emotions, whether it was with me, with Robert, with anybody, with your pastor, whatever. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I am throwing the pimps under the bus, and I'm throwing the misplaced hotesters under the bus. I am doing that, but please, let's get control back of our own energy so we can start to manifest. And, like, watch this thing from afar. Like, step back, like Robert said, and stop being so reactionary and learn a system. My system teaches you how to be proactive, and then you can include reaction in that. But if it's not personally affecting something that you, like, I ask myself, would Michael Brown want me to sacrifice some, or just, I mean, would he want me to just jeopardize or sabotage what I got going on in my life when at this time he's on the other side, on the realm of the ancestors, looking back and saying there's as many people who are angry and want to go to jail and stand up to the cops and even die for this. I got one of my young homies talking about he wants to die for this. He wants to just to police in Philadelphia and say don't shoot because he wants to demoralize them. I totally appall that strategy. He's 20 years old. He knows martial artists. In his mind, he's like a genius, but right now he's so emotionally caught up in it, like he's getting ready to lend his energy to sabotaging. And, you know, I'm not going to put it out there. We're not going to lose him. Don't waste any time. And Michael Brown on the other side is saying, I can't come back, y'all. I make him reincarnate. I make him come back through someone else. But you cannot bring me back at 18 years old. They don't have the technology right now available for his neck of the woods. If they have the technology, it's not being available to Michael Brown or me and Robert Phoenix. They haven't to us. I'm not going to deny that they don't have it, but it's not being made available to us. We can't bring Michael Brown back. You know, comfort his mother and do something in his honor outside of violence. Show that you can have more self-control and that you want to be immensely successful. I have to say this because I would be remorse to say this. In a way, I'm not going to put everything on the cop who shot him. Because one thing I wanted to ask is, why was Brown so close to the door when the police officer tried to open the door that the door ran into Michael Brown? Here I am, a black man, and I see this police truck, SUV, or car backing up, and you almost hit me. I'm not going to stand so close to the door. Opens, it touches my physical body. Like, I want to know, why was Michael Brown standing so close to the car door? You know, and the problem with that is when we teach our 18-year-olds critical thinking and conflict resolution, critical thinking, then they won't put themselves in scenarios that end badly. This is just like the guy from the Baltimore Ravens. When Steve Smith gets suspended by ESPN last week because he says that women need to take some accountability in domestic violence. He didn't blame the victim, but he said that, hey, I know that women can antagonize men to the point that men get violent because men are not superior communicators, and then women play the victim, and then man's in trouble. She needs to start being accountable too. Young black males, I'm talking directly to you, 20 years and older, stand the fuck down. You don't have a fucking gun. And you cannot stand up to a guy with a bulletproof vest on and think that your dying is going to help any fucking thing. I don't care if you have reached the maximums of your frustration. I'm at the maximum of my frustration. I was 20 before I was 40, and I was much louder and much more angry than you all were. And there was no social media or cameras to record it. You're not the first person to be thrown into the back of a police van because you had dreadlocks or braids. Learn conflict resolution skills. The number one rule in martial arts is avoid rather than hurt. It doesn't say get cocky because I can take a gun from a police officer. I think my skills are better than 98% of the police officers in the United States. I think my martial arts is better than 75% of Navy SEALs and Delta Force and Special Forces. But I'm not going to try it, Robert. I'm not going to test this dude when he's got a fucking gun, especially if my life doesn't depend on it. I will play mental.
Yeah, let me just chime in with a stat here. It's a very interesting stat about the police and guns. The police have just purchased 93,000 new machine guns. 93,763 machine guns. So Ferguson shooting, U.S. police armed with 93,763 new machine guns.
Damn!
This is from the independent.co.uk. If Ferguson, Missouri looks like a war zone, that may be because its police force is armed to the teeth with military equipment. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier, because ultimately what this is also kind of about is a show of force, right? And it's not just to black America, it's also to white America or brown America or yellow America. Anybody who said we've had enough, this is an ostentatious show of force. It says in photographs from this week's protest, officers can be seen toting assault rifles, wearing gas masks and body armor, loaded with extra ammunition, magazines, riding around in mine-resistant armored personnel carriers. This is the militarization of U.S. police departments has escalated exponentially in the years since 9/11, with many local forces increasingly resembling U.S. troops fighting overseas. Now, a lot of these guys who are in charge of the local police departments, the commissioners, the captains, whatever, they wind up going to Israel and they wind up getting trained by the IDF. And the IDF is the Israeli Defense Forces. They're the ones, of course, have done a number on the Palestinians and the Gazans. That is their style of justice. That's how they deal. That's how they deal with people over there. So the United States police force is being militarized and being schooled by the very same people, which means that there's a whole consciousness, a psychological sort of, imprint that's being placed upon the entire country. And when they do this, obviously, they're getting our attention. Now, I just want to bring up one other quick thing. This is also fresh news just happening. You can look this up on the internet. There is a video now that has gone viral, and it is a video of the knockout game. And I'm sure, Khayr, you're familiar with it. You know what it's about. The knockout game is when it's generally a young black male walking up to someone and punching them and capturing it on video, and it goes viral. It's like it's a joke. It's bad reality TV. It could be an initiation. So there's now a knockout video, and I'm not sure how old it is. It could be dredging it up. I'm not sure if it's new, but I'm telling you, it's viral right now. It's in the news, and it's a pregnant woman getting knocked out on the knockout video. So now what is that doing? Well, now there's escalation on another side, and there's escalation on another side, and we have this dramatic tidal storm, the Neptunian tidal storm of escalation that's kind of in the air right now. So hopefully in the last 120 minutes we've been able to talk a few of you off the ledge. So there you go. That's the latest and the greatest, Khayr, from the World Wide Web.
The knockout game is not new. It's super stupid. And for all of you out here protesting for Michael Brown, I'm sure Michael Brown would approve of you knocking out some of the knocker-outers. Don't just knock them out neither. Like, I'm advocating kidnapping them. I'm really advocating snatching them up, throwing them in the trunk, and then having what we call a party. Sometimes in prison they call it a mattress party, where they'll put the blanket over you, and they'll just hold the blanket down so you can't get out, and everybody will put soap in their socks, and they just come by and just beat you with the soap. And it's a form of community. It's community bonding. And they're getting the message across to someone and saying, hey, you caused us to have some type of privilege taken away, and we don't approve anymore. We don't approve anymore, and if you do it again, we're going to have these type of parties every night. And the reason why the knockout game is going viral is because of the 20-year-old said that there were so many young black men who were afraid of the cops. I say it's a lot of 20-year-olds who are afraid to knock out the cats playing the knockout game. If it went viral, then tell them, hey, man, that's cool, man. I want to meet up with you, man. I want to smoke a blunt with you. I want to drink some liquor with you. Say something, and then snatch their ass up and beat the damn shit out of them. That's me. Listen, I would love to be visiting New York, because I don't stay there. I love to be visiting New York. To me, that would be so justice. Me just to see somebody do a knockout. I couldn't get over there to stop it, and then he turns around and sees me. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I would be so excited. Oh, my goodness. I don't even want to describe
it. It's the act of a coward, and that's just
it's the act of a coward. It's a full-fledged act of a coward. Also, Robert, I got to put this in. The new captain from the state trooper that came in, we didn't discuss him, but he is as much of a ploy from the Dustin Hoffman wag a dog. Like 2 days ago, I knew they were going to put some black figurehead in military. I didn't know whether they were going to fire the chief police and replace him, because that's a tactic. You see this all the time. Rodney King, any type of thing. Eric Gardner, they just put on the cover of the U.S. Daily News. Every time there's a white on black crime, they come in with a black police officer who's going to lead the investigation, and what that is supposed to do is more neuro-linguistic programming to calm you down. It's to just calm the masses down. Yes, he says he's from Ferguson. But how do I know, Robert, that he's not an actor and a very good one? How do I know? Right. Because I can't find any records on him. I typed his name in, and I typed in Missouri State Police, and you're a good researcher, and if you find something after the show, inbox me, because I can't find him and his profile there and if you're a black captain at the Missouri State Police in St. Louis, there should be some record of you on the internet somewhere doing something. I mean, you had to got a promotion from somewhere. You did some kind of civic duty in the last 3 or 4 years that was internet worthy, but you just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden the entire media says the scene tonight is much different. The scene is, last night they had military hardware and the anti-tank weapons, but now tonight everybody's casual. And even the police chief is out here taking selfies. The police chief is taking selfies, man. This is an experiment to see what will you go for. Mm-hmm. And what is it? And what is it? Yeah, we're wrong. They know they're wrong for killing Mike. They know that. But they also know they got to be like, well, hey, it's going to happen now. We might as well go ahead and do the experiment and the ritual and see how many people we can affect and squeeze all the money out of it we can. And, let's have a good time at the same time. Let's see what's up, And so don't trust that because a black guy with a uniform on came in and now he's the spokesperson and he's in front of the camera that everything is cool now. Nah.
Right. The black voice of reason has arrived.
Oh, Jesus. That's exactly what it's called. Thank you for summing that up. The black voice of reason. So Robert, I have
All right,
appreciated
man. Listen, we gotta wind this thing down because we're running out of live time here, and I wish I could put a few more quarters in the meter, but we can't. So I want to thank you for coming on and getting pretty real with this. You know, some of the stuff you had to say might be really unpopular with some people, and I think it takes a lot of nads to go there. And I understand where you're coming from because you want to get to the higher plane with this, and I totally applaud that. And I'm glad I had you on. So thank you for it.
Hey man, I appreciate it. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for your continual support, Robert. Just my big shout out real quick to Robert Phoenix is he's a genuine cat. So for those of you, this is your first time on his show or something. Don't think, oh, this white man's gonna go snatch up this black guy and have him on his show. No, me and Robert are friends offline. And it's none of your business what we talk about, because we do talk about other things that are outside of astrology and politics. So, you know, and as a matter of fact, I said something to Robert, because Robert could have been like, who the hell are you? You're not going to be on I don't know. But nah, we're cool. He's been on some of my shows. I've been on shows of his before. Like, this is a real stand-up dude. He's a galactical citizen. He's still on that conspiracy theory thing now. Sometimes I watch him from afar, and I'm like, I'm not getting in that, Robert. I'm not participating in that. Not participating in that, Robert. I will say real quick, though, that I haven't looked at Obama in a long time, but my God, I saw him when he made this speech, and he looked like he was 1,000 years old. Like, the gray hair is crazy. But, hey, you Republicans, get off my man's dick, because there's nothing he can do to compete with what George Bush Jr. did. There's no way possible that he can compete with the travesties. So, hey, y'all go ahead, Obama. You got 2 more years. You're a legend. You know, you could be a clone and all the other kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into that. But, you know, hey, it's all good. You know, but you Republicans, I'm going to tell y'all what, though. You got 2 more years while Obama is in office. I mean anybody listening, white, black, blue, whatever, because once Obama gets out of office, all hell. The Republicans have their astrologers, and they're looking to bring holy hell on y'all and get back all the control that they may not have right now. But they're going to snatch it up. You're going to see a Republican president. You're going to see a Republican House and Senate. And it's going to be painful out here. And I bet you we'll be able to track back to this militarization of the police in St. Louis and around the United States. And I bet you it's going to be with some fucking Republican agenda, even though I'm a Republican.
I think you're tapping into what we're going to be staring down with Saturn and Sagittarius, and you know, Sagittarius wants to be free, and Saturn wants to, you know, put the leash on it, right? So I think we're going to see the beginnings of some real, you know, with Saturn and Sagittarius. To your point, and some people not taking too kindly to that. All right, my friend, be well. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you out there in the ethers. Thanks again, Khayr.
All right, big bro, I appreciate it. I love you. I'm going to holler at you later.
Love you back. All right, that's my man Khayr Love, and we're out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening and getting on the phone and listening on the phone. That's the most listeners I've ever had on the phone, period. And we're off to the chat room. Thank you all for hanging out and participating and adding your energy. Here's Phil K. Dick. I'll see you all on Monday with 11th House Radio. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have a great weekend.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.